a sense of community when you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me.
Hello, everyone. Hope everybody's doing well. My guest today has been here once before, and I'm so happy to have him back on. David Swankey. Welcome back, David.
Thanks so much for having me, Nancy.
And no, just reading on your Facebook profile, I'm aware that you're a school board trustee here in Chilliwack, right?
Yep.
And you're also the director at Fraser Valley Down Syndrome Society?
One of the directors, correct.
One of the directors. Also the vice chair at Fraser Valley Child Development? Correct,
yeah.
Okay, so that's a lot of different things to do. But let's talk about the school board trustee for just a second. So explain to everybody what the trustees do.
Sure. No, that's a great question. So there are 7 publicly elected school board trustees in Chilliwack. I'm one of those 7. Individual trustees don't exercise any power on their own. What they do is they influence board decision. They have a voice and a vote in the decisions of the board, and the board exercises any power reflecting the collective voice of those 7 members. So it would be policy and strategic planning. It would be the hiring of a superintendent. It would be the passing of a budget. Mm-hmm. And then it would be certain guiding documents, capital planning. I'm trying to think here, a variety of documents that sort of guide the financial and the strategic well-being of the district, ultimately with the goal of improving student outcome and success.
Okay. Now, does the board decide what being taught in the classrooms?
No.
See, no,
we do not determine curriculum.
Okay, so this is one of the things, because I know right now, if you don't mind, I'm talking about this.
Yep.
There is some protesting going on, some disruptions during your meetings on the outside. And the thing is, apparently, the children are being sexualized or grooming, whatever. Why are they protesting the school board trustees if you're not the ones who make those decisions?
I think it's twofold. One is just a certain amount of misinformation that's in the community about what is and is not in schools, and the manner in which certain resources are made available in school settings. The other piece is just, I'd say, a lack of understanding and awareness of how boards work and what is and is not within the purview of the Board of Education. And so I think members of the public that show up and are protesting, they see, well, a Board of Education is publicly elected, and so that's the appropriate venue to be protesting, and they're not really connecting the fact that that is not a decision of the Board of Education. It's just a public face to the way the system works, I suppose.
Okay, well, I want to make sure you got that out there, because I hear about this and I knew it was false information that these people are protesting. So hope, and I don't understand why nobody takes the time, of those who are protesting rather, to get the facts first, because that's important. If you're going to protest, know what you're protesting.
And I'll just add, if I may, too, this isn't simply protesting. The Abbotsford School District had a meeting disrupted on September 26th, where members of the board and senior staff members of the public were escorted by RCMP out of the building. They had to suspend their business. The October, I believe it was 10th meeting of the board in Chilliwack, there was a significant RCMP presence at the conclusion of business that resulted in staff and trustees being escorted from the building. So I just want to be careful. There's a distinction between peaceful protest where voices are being heard, and disruption to the fabric of basically the democracy that informs the way that board governance works in the public school system.
Right. Somebody informed there was a post of the peaceful, like the other side of the protesters. Like, I shouldn't say they were protesting. They're all about being peaceful and loving and all of this stuff. And somebody said that the protesters actually had one of their vehicles was from Washington. Now, I have no problem with people protesting, where if you know what you're protesting, no death threats, nothing like that. Keep it in your community. If you're just looking for numbers and you're bringing people from the US, like, what is that all about? So that they've lost any respect I had for them, just wanted to put that out there.
I didn't see it myself. I suppose all I can say is it's concerning when the temperature is being escalated, and you do worry, what does de-escalation look like, and what is the impact ultimately in schools, because it has a chilling effect for students, for staff, for parents that are trying to do the right thing and support all students through the lens of equity in our district.
And I know that one of the members in particular has had death threats, has had been bullied and intimidated. And I think, like, for me, those are such cowardly acts, because if you have a problem with any one of you individually, then meet with you and discuss it. Hey, I don't like that this is happening or whatever. And then you're going to learn the facts better. But when you're just going to, try to send somebody death threats or intimidating them, it's like, no, that's not the way to handle anything. Because what does it solve?
I don't think there's a desire to solve anything. I think that it's intentionally unproductive, unfortunately.
That is really sad, really, really sad. Anyway, let's move on from that one and bring it up to
Sure.
onto something. You're the vice chair, Fraser Valley Child Development. So tell me what that program does, or if you call it a
Sure.
program.
No, I'm happy to. The Fraser Valley Child Development Center is really, it's the Fraser Valley Child Development Society that supports the FVCDC. This is the start of my second 2-year term, so I'm just entering my third year with them. My connection with them started as a parent of a child with a disability, and so my kiddo was referred basically from birth for support from them, and they did incredible work with him. And kind of as he was aging out of their under 5 programming, I was interested in continuing to, I think, both have the relationship with the center, but also to support their work.
Right.
They, in my view, do a lot of important work. They operate centers in Mission, Abbotsford, Chilliwack, and they have a space that is operating its least out in Hope, and they support all the way up to Boston Bar in some areas. It is mostly kiddos under the age of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Self-referral is often the avenue whereby families and individuals are supported, but it can also be referred from a family doctor or from a developmental consultant. And they do great work. So I'd say the board is, again, similar to the work of a school board. You're hiring the executive director.
Yeah.
You're reviewing your risk assessment with the support of professional staff, reviewing the budget, reviewing the strategic plan. And similarly, we'll be, I think, renewing our strategic plan shortly. The one piece I'll also highlight, we just last year celebrated our 40th year, which was very exciting. So we had a pretty significant gala in Abbotsford. We had Jennifer Charlesworth, who's the representative for children and youth, who was there and delivered a keynote, as well as other dignitaries, including a former board member and former MLA Daryl Pluckus, who joined us and shared a few words as well. So
very good.
Lots of positive.
Yeah, for sure. Now, can you give me an example of something specific they would do to help a child and whatever the need is?
Sure. So I put on my parent hat here. For my kiddo, we had then an infant development consultant connect with us, and I think get to know both our child's needs, but also our family's needs, kind of the profile wherever we were at. And then over time that involved both speech and language pathology, or SLP, occupational therapy, or OT, physiotherapy, or PT support. So all of those were on our caseload. And then eventually, for my kiddo, he had a at-birth diagnosis of Down syndrome, but also now has a diagnosis of autism. And so they, I think, sort of started introducing us to some of those conversations, identifying resources to us, and helping us understand that path, because it's a very different path to have an autism diagnosis and ultimately designation in the public school system.
Right.
So it's really, I'd say, is they meet families and they meet children where they're at, and try to support them on their own terms, which is really important.
Right. And they can direct you if you don't know where to get certain services or whatever. Imagine they can direct you, right?
Within some limitations, absolutely. I mean, it is, I'd say we're over 80% publicly funded, and we stretch every dollar. We also do a lot of fundraising to supplement. But there's always the limitations of what public funding provides. And for some kiddos, that I can tell you that My son now does basically weekly occupational therapy. That wasn't a level of service they were able to provide, but they did provide some of that really important early intervention. And I should just add, it's also not always deeply intensive work. It can be things like Mother Goose. It can be the delivery of the COM curriculum, which was developed under the umbrella of the VCDC and is actually available through a variety of regions, including some of the early learning in the Chilliwack School District. So they do a lot of support for kiddos, especially those under and around the age of 5.
Okay, very good. That sounds really, really good, actually. And it's something very important to a lot of parents, I imagine. Right?
Definitely.
So now let's talk about the Fraser Valley Down Syndrome Society.
Sure, and if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind pivoting actually to Down Syndrome BC, just because there's some. I serve on their board of directors. I'm one of the directors at large, and we actually have some kind of exciting things coming up.
Yeah.
Later this month, on October 28th, we'll be doing a summit. We're calling it 321 Summit, which is a little nod to persons with Down syndrome having the third 21st chromosome, hence 321. And it's going to be focused on self-advocates. So we have a keynote from Madison Telvin, who is a person with Down syndrome. She's a Canadian advocate, a model, and an actor who will be delivering the keynote for those in attendance. We also have an entrepreneur market, which is going to be persons with Down syndrome that have small businesses in and around the community, and they're going to be able to showcase what they provide and present. And then we're going to have a few panel discussions, which includes self-advocates and experts. Yeah, so really, there's been a lot of work. I should credit my board members because certainly they've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting, and we're pretty excited. It's a first for our society. So
right. That's really great. I don't know if you're aware, but I think it's maybe on TikTok. I'm not sure, and I was just wondering how you feel about it. There's one, I think, young man. I believe he's autistic, but he's a fantastic, does beautiful drawings, and somebody said to the parents, like the parents videotape it, and somebody said, "Oh, you're forcing him to do something." Like he's a man. Their son looks like a man. He's not a baby. The parents, somebody accused the parents, of forcing him to do it, but they talk to the young man and say, is this something you want to do? You don't have to do it. And he just loves doing it. He just does it. And then there's also more showing more Down syndrome. There was a show, I can't remember, it was a reality show, and something about the way we are, or something like that. How do you feel about those things now being aired?
I think it's really important that we're in this moment where we're centering a lot of advocacy on self-advocacy and elevating those voices that maybe have been, it'd be kind to say that they're in the margins. Often they were just entirely just not at the table at all. I think even when you look at public education, we're only a couple generations removed from individuals either being entirely out of the system or segregated within the system. So I think we're in this really interesting moment where we're starting to elevate those voices, and I hope we're creating spaces where we're listening to them. That's certainly the intention of Down Syndrome BC and of the work that's happening with the summit. I think the challenge is always encouraging others to slow down, to listen, to maybe reflect on some of their own assumptions. And that's a challenge. That's kind of ongoing work. If I bring it back to the Chilliwack School District, even we have an accessibility committee, which is a mandate under the accessibility legislation at the provincial level. All school districts have it. But that's been a certain amount of reflection, I think, for public education broadly and the public sector broadly to look at what does accessibility mean and how do we focus and present the perspective of self-advocates within those settings so that they're informing what the decisions are.
Right, for sure. And I'm just thinking about too, you as you being a parent of a child who with Down syndrome and autistic, it's important to teach parents to teach children that just because somebody's different, they don't need to be bullied or ostracized or whatever, right?
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And I think it's challenging too. As a parent, I'm often conscientious of my child doesn't speak. He uses an augmented communication device, the AAC.
Okay.
And so often he has interactions, he communicates lots, but there isn't the language there to support. And so being mindful of am I always appropriate in speaking for him or in presenting him? concepts like consent. I mean, he's only 6 years old, but it's really important that he is the consent of those around him, if he's playing with them, or that, just the way kids are.
Yeah.
Personal space is really important. One thing it's probably getting way too personal, but one thing I'm always aware of, he's just starting to walk independently. And so he's always reaching out and he's touching people. And so learning like that personal space boundary is really big for him right now. I think it's really important that we're looking just broadly at making sure that the inherent dignity of people is like centered within everyone that we connect with, right? And the tendency can be to just see the deficiencies or the disabilities of people and not necessarily see them for their full selves.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you know her. I interviewed her name is Mary Curto. She has a podcast, and she has a daughter who has Down syndrome, and she interviews, I believe it's parents with children of Down syndrome. And it's just so, I personally think it's wonderful that these things are being talked about, they're put out there, children not being hidden, people don't have to be told that they should be ashamed or any of those things that were once done to people, like somehow being blamed for their child being born with something that they had no effect over, right?
Is that the T21 Mom podcast? I think so, Mary?
Yes.
Yeah, she does great work. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, for sure. And I just want to say again, I grew up, well, I'm in my 70s. So, on our street where we lived, there was one boy who had Down syndrome. We didn't know that's what it was because we were children. But kids used to avoid him, especially on Halloween night. Nobody would go to their door. But my parents, my mother, I should say, as bad as my family was, my mother always taught us that to be nice to, his name was Johnny, talk to him, go to his door, whatever like that, and treat him like another person, and I think I'm glad that we were taught that.
Yeah. Right.
And we should not just, I don't care what the issue is. I don't think we should just make a difference between people for whatever whether it's mental health or I think skin tone or anything like that. I'm about including everybody. That's my goal anyway. Sorry, this is not about me. It's supposed to be about you.
No, not at all. I think at the center of it, I mean, whether you're talking about the school system or otherwise, kindness being the goal and the guiding principle and all of it is so important. So I'm certainly thankful you were raised with those principles. And I hope that, I hope I'm raising my kids with those same principles.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, as far as I know, my children are very open. It's kind of interesting in a way, because my daughter, for a while, she was dating somebody who was he was part Black American, I guess, and he asked her how I would feel about it, and my daughter, it was not an issue because it wasn't an issue as far as I was concerned, And I come from a family that we have somebody who's transgender, we have somebody who's gay, there's interracial marriages. And I think I love that. Personally, I love that because it teaches me to be accepting of everybody.
Oh, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So now what else were we going to talk about? And I can't remember originally because we met up at, it was one of those events, was it at the Evergreen Hall a while back?
Oh, it probably was.
Yeah.
It must have been kindness chain, perhaps. Yeah.
Something they had put on, yeah. So I can't remember what some of the things we were going to talk about at that time.
No, I think we've touched on a lot of fun things. I'll mention two other things which are just kind of neat. One of the things I am a little bit involved with still is Cycle Chilliwack. It's Go By Bike Week the next couple weeks, so pretty exciting. You'll hopefully see a lot of people in and around town, and I want to shout out the people doing the heavy lifting from Cycle Chilliwack. They hosted a great kickoff at the Cottonwood Theater last night with a movie called The Engine Inside. So really neat to see some stuff going on in the community, and great turnout for that. I also am involved with Chilliwack Restorative Justice, so wanted to give them a little shout out. They opened a community cycling space. If you haven't had a chance to check it out, it's just on Spadina, and there's a huge mural there they just completed.
It's on Main Street.
It's on Main Street. Thank you. Just off Spadina. Absolutely, you're right.
I can see it. I can see it from my place, actually.
Yeah, and the mural looks great. It's amazing what a bit of color can do. Reminds me actually of a lot of good people doing important work with the Mural Fest who've been brightening up downtown as well. But yeah, we did a soft launch in the spring and a grand opening in September, and it's a neat space. I think there's a lot of good plans in the works, and we'll keep talking about it as it unfolds, but it's great to see it take off.
Sounds very exciting, actually.
Yeah.
I was wondering, I didn't know, I could see it was said bicycling, but I didn't know what it was, what the building was for. Like, are they selling bikes? Are they repairing bikes? Like, I had no idea. So
yeah,
it's good to find out what it's about, right?
There is a bit of a service going on. Right now it is Chilliwack Restorative Justice has a long history of doing the bike auction in Chilliwack.
Right.
And so this is slightly more formalized. The bikes are being worked on. There's a small shop where you can take a look at what's been prepared, and you can purchase bikes there, and then other bikes are going on marketplace. So it's both supporting the work of restorative justice, but also just encouraging persons of all ages and abilities to have the chance to have a bike at a reasonable cost, and to be active. I mean, for me, cycling, walking, all those things make a huge difference in both my routines and my mental health, and something that I can say the same for my family. And I'm excited about what they're bringing to the community.
Lots of exciting things. Well, thank you so much, David. Stay on camera there. So you've been listening to David Swankey, and remember, he's with the school board, and he talked about what the trustees actually do. So find out before you get involved in any kind of protest. And also Fraser Valley Child Development Society and the Fraser Valley Down Syndrome Society. So check it all out, and I hope you watch the whole show, the interview. Of course, they won't see this unless they won't see these words unless they watch the whole thing. So thank you to everybody for watching. I hope you continue to do so. Take care and peace out.
A sense of community, Chilliwack's a place to be. A sense of community where you're free. Rolling through the mountains, rolling through the valley, rolling through paradise with me. It's multicultural, you're sure to see it all. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see. Come party in the park, go dancing after dark. Chilliwack's the place to be, you'll see.